I keep thinking about when we were kids and how they used to make us practice hiding under our desks in case of an atomic bomb.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Well, folks, make sure that you're stocked up on those MREs because you don't want to run out when we hit the end of the world. Welcome back to the Duck and Cover Movie Podcast. My name is Jeremy Anderson, and with me is Jason. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
All right, and we are doing the 2002 movie Resident Evil. So, as I think I mentioned last week at the end, so we are not going to be comparing the movie to the video games. Um, I remember playing Resident Evil 2, I think, like years ago. And obviously, there's for this movie, the only comparison is the name and zombies, and that's it.
Right.
So we're not going to be doing that at all. And because I'm sure that there are tons of web pages and YouTube videos that are out there that will talk about the differences between the two. So,
Right.
okay, so this movie came out on March 15th, 2002. Scroll down to the bottom, and we'll just kind of get some of this information over with. So, the estimated budget for this movie was 33 million. Let's see, its opening weekend they did 17 million, which is, I mean, that's not that bad. Gross in the US and Canada, they did just over 40 million, and then worldwide they did just almost 103 million. So they did pretty well, making back their money for this one, that's for sure. And
set up a franchise.
Well, yeah.
How many did they make? 6?
I think
5?
6. So I ended up getting this at a Dollar General that has the first 4 movies. I mean, it was like what, $5, $6. So I figured, why not?
$5 for 4 movies.
$5. I mean, you can't get any cheaper than that, man. But yeah, I think there's like 6 in the franchise, maybe 7. And just in case anybody is aware, again, I know one of the characters' name is Claire. I don't remember what the guy's name is, but those characters do end up coming into the movies later on. But the director, Paul W.S. Anderson, decided that he wanted to focus on the character of Alice. I think he had wrote this for his wife, Mila Jovovich. So, like I was just saying before we started, that he kept the name and he kept the zombies. Obviously, Umbrella, Raccoon City, all of that stuff. But the 2 main characters were thrown out, and he just created his own. So,
right.
The Rotten Tomato scores that I found. So the reviewers, it's showing 35%, which I mean, that's obvious. But the audience score was actually 67%. So I was surprised. I think a lot of people just like this just because it's it's kind of it's a cheese horror flick, but what are you gonna do?
Well, it's the name. I think the actual screenplay was was like a just a zombie movie ripoff.
Yeah.
And the people that were reading it were like, well, this is like Resident Evil.
Right.
And I think they went about it that way, where they called it Resident Evil after the fact because it was so similar.
Yeah.
So it wasn't originally like, hey, let's take Resident Evil and turn it into a movie. It was actually like, well, this is so close to it. Why don't we just see if we can coin that phrase, coin that to it.
Yeah.
And then, so I think that's how it went from what I read. But
yeah, I mean, more than likely, I mean, because I mean, there's there are a lot of movies that have been over the years, over the decades, that that are taken from video games. But see, most of the time they will at least have the main characters from the game, and they will make as many references as they can. But I think with this one, it was just, I'm just gonna take the name. But what's interesting is there are animated movies of Resident Evil that really seem to focus on the characters from the game. So, um, if the Resident Evil game franchise is something that you love, um, definitely go and check out all the animated movies that are out there because
Mhm.
I've seen a couple of those and those are really good.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
the did you ever play the original? You said you didn't play the original Resident Evil game.
The first one, no,
Mhm.
I don't remember how I got a hold of it, but I did play two.
Okay.
And I think I played one maybe a couple of games after that. But I never did play the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more of a haunted house horror movie
Right.
or story. And you didn't really I think that was the part of the game where you found out it was the Umbrella Corporation,
Right.
you know, beneath everything. It just seemed like a haunted house story.
Yeah.
But that's
Because
what
it
happens when the name's already known. So like everyone's gonna watch this movie and they already know the story. So,
right.
I think
Right.
that's what they were going for too, is like they there's no spoiler here. Like everybody knows
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
So they just try
Exactly.
to make it.
All right. Well, hey, listen, before we get started here, unfortunately my screens are not behaving the way that I want them to. Here we go. Okay. So before we get started, we actually have a sponsor for this episode. And our sponsor today is actually Umbrella Health. Folks, when you're living in Raccoon City, don't you want the best health care that you can get? That's why you need the Umbrella Corporation. They have a wide range of medical plans that will suit individual and family needs. You need the best. You need to get under the umbrella. Check out Umbrella Health, or excuse me, umbrellacare.health today. Mention that you heard about them through the Duck and Cover Movie Podcast, and you'll get a free gift. Now, from what I understand, you'll either get a blue gift or a green gift. So, you definitely want to make sure that you ask about both, when you're getting the information from them. So, folks, go check it out today. Okay. Let
Yeah.
me go back to both of us. There we go. All right. So
We
let's
wanted
get
to keep
going
this
here.
we wanted to keep this sponsor free, but they wouldn't let
Yeah.
us.
No. But when they found out that we were going to do that, their PR guys were really nice, and they said, hey, you know what, we'd like to sponsor this episode. So thank you to everybody at Umbrella for reaching out to us. So here we go. Okay, so the movie starts out. We are finding out about all the great things that goes on in Raccoon City along with Umbrella. Um, so as the actually, let's go to real quickly the people who are in it. So Mila Jovovich is playing Alice. Michelle Rodriguez, who's in all these kinds of
All
movies,
these movies.
is playing Rain. Um, Eric Mabius is playing Matt. James Purefoy is playing Spence. Colin Salmon, which is it's interesting. He's the character's name that they have is One. That's it. And Marlon Cruz as Kaplan. So yeah, so this, as we've mentioned already, real quickly, the director for this movie was Paul W.S. Anderson. He also produced, wrote this movie, and of course, um, for this movie, you cannot have a better character than the music of Marilyn Manson. I mean, it. I'm sorry, but I think if you would have put any other kind of music in this movie, it just for
Mhm.
whatever reason it wouldn't have worked.
Oh, the score was perfect. Yeah, I
It
mean,
was.
and it's like the Marilyn Manson, because I remember reading about the score, and he was saying, because he's like someone. I mean, of course he writes like basically industrial metal music,
Right.
but it's that he's got this sort of like, I think what he was saying is sort of like this obsession with children's music,
Yeah.
and so it's like this sort of like children's music sounding
Yeah.
tone to this death metal,
Yeah.
and it just gives this ominous feeling of like, this mega power corporation that's happening.
Right.
That,
I mean,
that's
especially the opening music.
yeah,
It's just it's like ding 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 ding, and then
yeah,
you just hear this deep undertone of what?
right. It's got that sort of like, um, Jack in the Box
Yeah,
sounding, tone
like a
to
hand
it.
cranking.
That's
Yeah,
been
exactly.
slowed down and everything, and then when they open the movie and it's got that like small screen and it's slowly expanding,
Yeah,
really good effect to that open, and you just see this sort of like, viral, thing where they're picking up the test tubes and
right.
stuff. And it's like, wow, that was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
this movie, it's interesting. One thing I wanted to throw out is like the first
mhm.
10 minutes of it. When I watched it, it was like, oh, this is gonna be so good. Just up at the time until they get to where they go into uh the hive. That
Yeah,
first 10 minutes was just super intense.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
it kind of ended there. But anyway.
Right. The best part was right there in the beginning of the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we see somebody. Yeah, it's right after the title sequence goes away. The screen starts slowly zooming in on somebody who's reaching in and grabbing these vials. One's green, one's blue, and they're putting it into a container. That person leaves, and just as he's leaving the lab, we see one of them is thrown, and then as it hits the floor, it cracks. And I like the little effect, like the heat or something that's coming
Yeah.
from it. So we just see the guy leave, and then what ends up happening is the system, which we find out later is it's the Red Queen, but we don't know who it is. Right at the beginning, labs start shutting down, doors start locking, elevators start locking down, and basically by the end of that quick, like you said, 10 minutes, everybody in the building is dead.
Right.
They're just the
Yeah.
as
And at that time, you don't know it's underground because you can still see there's windows with,
yeah,
it appears that, they're in a high rise building.
right.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, and you've got sound effects. You've got helicopters, you've got police vehicle. You can hear sirens and stuff like that. So, I mean, I like the idea. One of the lines in the movie was saying something about it makes it easier to work underground when you don't think you're underground, or something to that
Right.
effect. So, I
Right.
mean, they did a really good job with that. So once we find out that everybody's dead, we switch to a house, and this is where Alice is waking up from being knocked out. She's in the shower, and she's been knocked out by some sort of gas. She doesn't know who she is.
Mhm.
She gets out and starts trying to figure out, where she's at. She doesn't really understand.
Mhm.
She goes over to one of the dressers. She starts pulling. There's underclothes and different things like that. And then when she gets to drawer number 3, it's like machine guns and
Right.
lockdown. And she's like, like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Well, and they're trying to tell us that something's not right. She doesn't know who she is. She
right,
sees the message on the message pad, and
yeah,
then she's trying to copy it verbatim and see that it's not her own handwriting. So
yeah,
it's like this person is having memory loss. They don't know who they
Yeah.
are. Okay.
So she ends up getting out, getting dressed. She goes out into the house. I mean, I like the way that the house looks. I mean, I don't know that I could live in something just that huge and empty, but
Well, that is
yeah.
the part of the, like, it's very much like the video game.
Oh, okay.
Like that's sort of how the house looked, with those types of statues and that sort of decorate, how the house is
Oh,
decorated.
okay.
So that was very much like the video game.
Okay. All right.
There was a lot of puzzles and stuff, where it's like, here's several
Okay.
statues and you got to line them up, so this was the part that seemed like it was going to be like the video game.
Okay. So you at least go into it with the idea, with the possibility that, hey, well, we're in the house.
Mhm.
So, and it's similar from the video game. So,
Right.
hopefully we're going to head that way.
Right.
So she ends up going outside. The wind starts picking up. She's not sure what's going on. She runs back in the house. And then we've got Matt who comes running in, grabs her, and, is trying to get her attention. And then and the rest of that team comes swooping in. They detain Matt, and then they're trying to get the information. They're trying to get Alice to report. She doesn't know how to report because she doesn't know what to report. They end up making their way in through the house down to a train, and they end up taking that train to the hive. And it's at that point where we get an explanation of, and then while they're on the train, we meet Spence, who's also knocked out.
Mhm.
So he doesn't remember who he is either. We come to find out that the marriage of, sorry, I've got something in my mouth. The marriage of Alice and Spence is fake. They are both guards. They guard the house there. They are operatives of Umbrella. We also find out that they are in the Hive, and the Hive is a science facility underneath Raccoon City. And then, so here's another part where it I don't know that it was designed because of the video game, but they try to make it look very video game.
Yeah.
And that's when they switch to the map of the hive, and you can see over on the side it's showing the
Mhm.
elevation. It's showing, it's spinning around. It's showing where everybody's at.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. To me, it was kind of like a nod to the video game, but again, that was about it. Just the fact
Right.
that the origins were from the video
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, and whatever the research they're doing, they never really specify exactly what they're doing.
Right.
It's just it's classified. They're doing some sort of genetic viral research.
Hmm.
Just it keeps that ominous feeling that this goes way beyond our pay grade. It's
Right.
something very dangerous and scary going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the things that I liked though from some of that scenes, which they do often, is they show like the detail of, like, the wedding rings, how it has the
Yeah.
umbrella, property of Umbrella
Property.
Corporation
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
ring. Later on, we haven't talked about it yet, but even the bullets, the
Right.
bullet
Have
casings have
the
Umbrella,
stamp
like
on it.
everything is labeled Umbrella Corporation.
Right.
Because
it basically, at this point, it's like Umbrella is supposed to be just this global powerhouse.
It's the Walmart of everything.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. Everything.
It's unfortunate, but it makes it simple, because then you don't have to worry about advertising for other companies, or showing any sort of real life type of companies or anything like that. So you just stick the Umbrella symbol anywhere and everywhere. So that just makes it easy. So they get in. They as they breach the hive, we find ourselves right there at that same elevator area. Um, Obviously, there's no bodies, which is kind of weird because everybody was dead just not too long ago.
Hmm.
So we start to see that something is getting a little weird. They start moving down towards the labs, and um, with the lockdown, the labs that were sealed got flooded. Other labs that they were going to try to get through were still sealed and had like this gas and this stuff floating around. So they can't get through. So they've got to figure out a way. So I think it's Kaplan. He's on his little ARM
Good boy.
little computer. Yeah, and so he's trying to figure that out. Um, so as we're sitting there waiting for the discovery, we see that I think it's behind Alice or behind one of the characters. All of a sudden, a body floats to the window, and everybody realizes, oh, those people are dead, and so I think that's the first time that we actually see that that there is a body there. Somebody's dead, so we know that the body's there somewhere. So they figure out that they need to go down to through a dining hall, and they can get to where they need that way. So they turn around and leave. But just before the scene switches, you see the body that's there. All of a sudden, they speed up the thing where the woman opens her eyes and puts her hand on the glass, but they do it so it's like that.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, so, so they're trying to lead up to the whole zombie thing.
Hmm.
They get down to the dining hall, and as they get there, we start to see that there are all these storage chambers, and they're a little thrown off by it. So they're trying to figure out why all this is there. They don't really look into it. They just keep going. Alice, one, Spence, Kaplan, and a couple of others head towards the Red Queen's. I guess it's just the not office, but it's where her mainframe is.
Right.
Kind of like a server room kind of thing. So they get the door open, but of course the Red Queen decides, no, I don't want you in here,
Mhm.
and ends up killing everybody that's in that hallway with the lasers that come across and the
Right.
lasers that move and turn into a grid and
Yeah.
chops everybody up. I gotta admit, I like the way that the last guy. I mean, we see the lasers go through him, so
Mhm.
we know that he's gotten cut into chunks, but we don't actually see the body falling apart. We actually see it in the reflection
The reflection.
on the
Yeah.
door, and I think that way I mean, it's already gory as it is,
Right.
but you see it as a blur, and it just kind of falls
Right.
apart. So
Well, the thing I didn't understand is how that duffel bag that had the device that was supposed to reboot the Red Queen didn't get cut up into pieces.
yeah, see, that's what I was wondering too. And then why didn't the first guy who got his fingers cut off, why he wasn't chopped liver at the same
Right.
time? But I think the assumption probably is that if the hallway is this tall, probably the laser stuff was this tall.
Yeah.
So that way we know that, okay, the bag is down here on the floor, so that's probably what happened. It dropped to the floor, and so it's okay. I
Right.
think that's probably their way of saving it. So Kaplan and Alice get in there, and we discover that the Red Queen all of a sudden starts speaking, and we see an image of what is supposed to be the Red Queen, which was designed after the programmer's daughter, who we actually will see in movie 2. So if you decide that you want to continue down the rabbit hole of Resident Evil, go to which one is it? Apocalypse, and that's the one where we actually get to see the programmer's
Right.
daughter because she's in that one. So he ends up. So Kaplan ends up connecting a device that forces the Red Queen systems to reboot. And when that happens, that's when all the security lockdowns are removed, all the doors start opening. And as that's happening, you start to see shadows in the distance. As the doors are opening, you start to see a little bit of movement in a shadow, little bit of movement in the shadow,
Right.
but we don't actually see anybody till a few minutes later when we get to Rain, and now we have the whole scene in the dining hall where here comes the hordes, and they, of course, it's a zombie movie. Nobody knows how to shoot a zombie, so they shoot in the leg, they shoot in the stomach. The zombie keeps getting up, and just chaos ensues.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because what do they? Because I never really figured out exactly how that works. Like, do you shoot them in the head and then they die in this, or do they just keep going no matter what? Because some people have half a head, like,
Right. And
they
because
just never die as long as.
yeah, I think what it is, and I think this is something that they try to do in a lot of zombie movies, is for whatever reason, basic functions must all just be in the brain,
Right.
right? So if you can disrupt the brain, because like the guy with the with half a face, it's just the face gone. So
Right.
the forehead, the top of it is still there.
Yeah.
And we see Rain, she snaps the neck of one of the zombies, and then that one actually falls dead.
Right.
So I think that's the justification. I think they figure it out later on that it's you've got to do the headshot in order for this thing to die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that that they do this a lot in a lot of zombie movies where the good guys, the heroes, get attacked. They shoot, but oh man, these things don't seem to die. And then eventually someone gets mad or gets frustrated and it's like, okay, I'm going to shoot them in the head, and all of a sudden it falls over.
Right.
Hey, so it's just one of those things. It's just part of the the suspense of trying to keep the story moving.
Right.
All right, so at this point, excuse me, now we're discovering that this substance has a name, and it's called the T virus. And as the story continues, because at this point it's we're just gonna kind of skip over all the zombie all the different places where the zombies keep popping up, because that's quite a bit of the middle section of the movie, and we're just going to stick with the story. So Alice is starting to remember that that there is a thing called the T virus. She's also starting to remember that there's a lady that works in the hive, and she was communicating with her and wanting to get information on the Umbrella Corporation and what they're doing with the T virus.
Right.
So she starts remembering that at one point outside the house, she talked with this lady. And so the discussion was, I'll get you all the information, but it's like we got to get the T virus out of there, so that the world can know and understand what's going on. At the same time, Spence is starting to remember as well. And we see that at one point, Spence was there for that same discussion, but he had a parabolic mic and was listening to them talk. So he knows what she wants to do. So I think he decided that he was going to go in and get it for her, or at least get it out.
Well, he wanted to sell it, right? That was the whole thing. Like he wanted to do something different with it.
Yeah. And that was, and we come to find out that he was the one that left the note that said, you know, today all of your dreams will come true.
Right.
Because we discover through his flashbacks of him remembering that he got in, he went into that lab, pulled them all out, threw the one, and gets running, and you know, gets out of the hive just before it locks down. Now, at the same time, so we need to back up just a bit. In those containers in the dining hall are, I hate this term, in a couple places that I found information, they call them the liquors.
Liquors.
It's,
oh yeah.
You know, the big things with the tongues. Yeah.
Claymation looking things.
Yeah.
What do they call it? The Nemesis Project or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Nemesis comes after, but Nemesis comes from those things scratching or, you know, attacking somebody who lives, because that's what happened to Matt at the end of the movie.
Right.
But one of those gets out, and you know, that's basically the boss of the movie, is them having to deal with this thing. Sorry. And so there's one loose running around, and you know, it's attacking and killing some people, but we don't really see exactly. Well, actually, it gets out, but it doesn't attack until the end. So so we'll just kind of speed up the story here. So we get to the point where they get Alice and Rain and Matt. They're the only ones left. Kaplan, we think, is dead because he got pulled through another door and disappeared.
Right.
They are in the lab where the T virus is supposed to be. Find out that it's not there, and then the Red Queen comes on, and you know, they start asking her like, what happened here? And you know, she said, well, you know, the virus got let loose into the building, so I had to take steps in order to stop all of this. Yeah. So she locked down everything, you know, as the virus was flowing through the ventilation system. She locks everything down, lets everybody die, and was basically just going to let it all sit there. Right. You know, and that would have been the containment, but you know, when these guys came in to open it up, that's when everything sort of fell apart. So it's almost like, you know, you've got the Red Queen who is the bad guy, but at the same time is just kind of, I mean, it is a bad character, but it wasn't designed to be bad against the people that were in there. She just wanted to just leave it, you know, let it all die.
The Red
away.
Queen did what the Red Queen was designed to do.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, I mean, that was all security protocols that were in place.
Yeah.
To make sure it doesn't get out. So like, it's not really a bad guy.
Right.
You know, it's just, you know, it did what it was supposed to. So
yeah, and the only reason why I say it that way is just because in that same scene, you know, they're trying to get out. They're trying to get the Red Queen to unlock the doors, but she's saying, "Okay, I'll let you out, but you got to do one thing for me. You have to kill Rain because she's infected." So actually, I guess that actually what you just said makes sense. So she doesn't want this thing getting out.
Right.
Because, you know, Rain is close to, you know, because as soon as they die, they turn into zombie and take off. So she's telling them, look, you kill her, I'll let you out. And they don't want to do
infected.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, no, that I think that part made sense. I mean, you know, it's kind of like 2001, you know, where with Hal, you know, it was the same thing, right? Seems like it's the bad guy, but really when you figure it out, like this, they're just doing what they were programmed to do.
Right.
Which is harsh. Nobody likes it. Feels bad, but that's, you know, they got to make sure they have a bigger picture in mind.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah.
So they end up So they decide, you know what? No, we're gonna do. Um, Alice has an axe that they got. She ends up just breaking the monitor that is supposed to be the interaction with the Red Queen, and then the lights go out again. The door opens up, and we find that Kaplan is on the other side. He still had the EMP set up, and he set it off, and that ended up frying the Red Queen. So all the doors unlock again, and so they all decide to leave. Now, the lockdown of the 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it is, lockdown of the hive itself is still counting down. So that nothing's going to stop that. It's just
Right.
going to keep going. So because they keep looking at their watch, and like I think at that scene there was like 20 minutes left, so that they need to get out. Now, just before they leave, while they're still interacting with the Red Queen, we see one of the boss, the liquor creature, gets to the train. That's where Spence is. Ends up attacking Spence, who has actually just injected himself with the T virus, the antivirus.
Yeah. Right.
But the thing attacks him, chews on him, and then that's what sets off its metabolic change, because she says that it's been introduced to, was it fresh DNA, so it's going to morph into something else.
hmm
So that's happening off in the distance. So Alice and the rest get to the train. What's left of Spence is there. Alice ends up getting rid of what's left of Spence. They end up getting back in the train, start taking off. They inject Rain with the antivirus, but it doesn't work. She ends up dying and turns. Now, at the same time, the mutated liquor creature has scratched Matt's arm, attacks Kaplan. Kaplan's dead. And so now they're having to deal with Rain and the creature. They end up shooting Rain in the head, which I think probably back somewhat, that's probably where they finally discovered,
Right.
oh, that's what we have to do with these guys. Okay, that makes sense. So they deal with her, and then they end up they're able to electrocute the creature by
Right.
getting him to connect to that rail that's underneath the train, which is
Mhm.
which is electrified, and that's what's getting the train back and forth. So they make it back to the house, and out of the sort of train center thing, just as the blast door is coming down. And so it looks like Alice and Matt are the only ones left. They're talking, and he keeps grabbing at his arm, and then we start seeing these little things start trying to make their way out of his arm. He's freaking
Right.
out, he's starting to react, and then somebody else breaks in, and it's all these people in clean gear kind of thing.
Right.
And they're getting him down to the ground, and the guy starts talking about, this one's been infected, take him back to the Raccoon facility, I think is how he said it, something like
Mhm.
that, and get him into the Nemesis program.
Right.
So Nemesis is next movie, but we are not going to deal with that. And then we've got Alice, who's fighting, and so they end up taking her back to the hospital in Raccoon City as well. And then the last thing that we hear from that voice is we're reopening the hive.
Right.
So at some point, so that's actually what ends up happening at the beginning of the next movie is we see people going in, they've reopened the door to the hive, and then all the
The
fun
infection
ensues after
happened.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So So the next thing we see after the voice. So actually, that's the um, yeah, that's the last really the thing that happens. So the next thing we see is Alice wakes up. She's on like some sort of futuristic looking medical bay bed. She's got these these probes all attached to her head and arms in different places. Um, so she ends up ripping all that off, and it finds a way to open the door. And then she's getting out, and as the door opens, the camera starts panning back. Um, there's nobody on the streets. There's cars everywhere. They've got the wind machines going, so you see like newspapers and different things blowing, but there's nobody around.
Right.
And so days, if not weeks, at that point have gone by because Apocalypse starts with we see what leads up to that point, because within 10-15 minutes of the beginning of Apocalypse, that's when Alice wakes up.
Right.
And and that's where we pick up and continue.
Yeah.
So the last thing we see is she gets to a police car, pulls out a shotgun, of course does the chick chick thing, and the camera starts pulling way back, and again we're seeing just one huge street. It's empty, there's nobody around, and then we go to credits. So, and then of course again you've got that, like you were talking about, that the Marilyn Manson music where it's that happy little kind of weird music in the background, and then you've got the undertone of the other stuff too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just don't understand who designs a security system where when the power's cut off, all the doors open.
Yeah. I would think they'd stay locked.
Yeah, they would probably stay locked. I don't think that, if that's the one flaw that happened here.
Yeah.
Everything opens when the power of the, yeah, I don't get that.
Because I would think it's, magnetic or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, this movie like started and ended in the first 10 minutes. For me. Like, it seemed really good. And then after that, they just kind of resorted to really kind of cheesy kung fu movie type of stuff.
Right.
But I don't know. It is what it is.
It is.
So
but
I think it's set up like, because part of it is sort of that glamour of it all too. Like, they really tried to get this, just that high flying kicks type of stuff in there.
Right.
So.
Well, and they eventually they wanted to just minuscule start setting up the things that Alice is able to do later, right? Because she ends up just becoming girl boss, and the rest of the movies, she's able to fight and attack and kill anybody and everybody,
right?
And and then she's able to do like these amazing things, like if you remember in the second movie, there's some characters in a church, and she ends up coming in on a motorcycle, comes flying, and it hits the ground, flips off as the motorcycle's going, starts shooting these things. So they're trying to make her a very fantastical character, which what I mean, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you can certainly do that, but I think again, I don't know, it just kind of a slap in the face, to the people who created the Resident Evil game series, because again, they took a long time to make several games before this movie ever came out, and they don't use any of those characters.
Right.
But again, I think this is just what Paul Anderson wanted to do for his wife. Wanted to create a series for her. You know, you can use Resident Evil name for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like they used, like the some of the bad guys from the game, the
Yeah.
enemies that, they had the dogs. The dogs was part of the
Right.
game too,
Yeah.
and that was sort of like a level you had to get past was the dogs. And they just kind of set it up that way where it was almost like a video game where you had to like get past these things and then
Right.
move on. But
And you know, once in a while, once in a while they would bring back, even in 3, which was what, Extinction, I think.
mhm,
Um, there's another facility that's underground, so they go back to the same. And I think they probably decided that they wanted to have the facilities built the same way so they could use the same program, uh, the thing that, looking like a video game where it's scrolling down and it's, showing you out the elevation and all
yeah,
that stuff, so all that animated stuff. So I think that's what that allowed them to be able to reuse it, probably because they reused it from the first one,
mhm,
because it like I said, it's the same. It's one like long sort of elevator thing, and then it branches out. Looks like a hive, and then there's a couple of hallways and different things. So they're designed the exact same way.
right, yeah,
So I mean, why not? If this is supposed to be the way that Umbrella builds their facilities, then okay,
right,
better luck to them.
yeah,
So,
yeah. All
all
right.
right. So yeah, so like I said, folks, that is Resident Evil. That is the first movie that came out in 2002. So we're gonna be starting our Jericho series, probably in the next couple weeks. We've still got a few more movies, and a couple more series that we want to do. One is going to be The Stand. um, I'll get a copy of this to you, and so we can go through it. We'll probably just do this as just, I mean,
That's
was
the one that was like what year was that one?
this was the CBS one.
Like from
This
the
from
90s?
yeah, from the 90s.
Okay.
So because this I saw this, that when that came out, and that was
With
just like,
Molly Ringwald
oh,
in it?
yep, yep.
Okay.
So that was the one that I
Okay.
wanted to do that one as opposed to the remake.
Okay.
Also, coming up soon, we'll be doing 12 Monkeys and Children of Men. I actually just got finished watching both of those the other day, and boy, Children of Men. And I tell you, the guy who filmed that, man, just all those
Mhm.
one shot scene, one of those, just the way he did it was just really cool.
Yeah.
And I'll get these DVDs. But if you get a chance, go and watch the stuff on Children of Men about how they did the car scene,
Yeah. Yeah, I
where they're
saw that.
driving.
Yeah,
Did
it's
you?
all one scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that movie.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah.
yeah, just
Okay.
that was really cool. So we'll be doing those, coming up here in the next few weeks. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.